Hello, everyone. I'm Malvina Miller Complainville from Fortuna Admissions, and I'm here with my colleague Heidi Hillis, who is going to talk to us about the Stanford interviews. Hi, Heidi. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Heidi, can you tell us a little bit about your background before we jump into our questions?
Sure. I graduated from the GSB a while back. I'm not going to say the year, but quite a while back. And since then, I've had kind of a long and diverse background. I worked for McKinsey for a while, and then I worked for an e-commerce company, and then I worked for Telefonica in Latin America. And most recently, I've been working with Fortuna. Been with Fortuna for about 7 years now, working with clients, helping them to navigate the Stanford application process.
Wonderful. And you and I started at about the same time, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So can you walk us through the application process, the Stanford application process?
Sure. I mean, it's similar to a lot of the other applications in that you have, the recommendations, the essays, and the application. I would say that the Stanford essays are quite unique in that there are a lot of them. So, for example, you have Harvard, which has the one main essay, or you have
Mhm.
CBS or something. They have several essays, but short. Stanford, especially over the last few years, has become more and more kind of comprehensive in the sense that they have their two kind of iconic essays. The main one, "What means the most to you and why?" and then "Why Stanford?" And now they've also added additional optional essays about your impact and how
Mhm.
your background has affected your participation at work. So by the time you get done with that application, you've written a lot of words. The admissions committee gets to know a lot about you, a lot of different aspects of you. So it's quite, I would say, comprehensive in that sense.
It is, and it does require a lot of self-reflection.
Lots of digging deep.
Yes. So let's say you're done with all of that. You've submitted your application. What happens next?
So the application then goes into the to the admissions committee. They say that they will review the application in the order that it's received, and then they start to issue interview invites. So those, unlike a lot of the other schools, which has a specific date where they release all their interview invites, Stanford has releases them kind of trickles them out over a month. So
Okay.
this year, for example, it's from October 12th to November 12th. They release some invites every day at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. So once that moment has passed and you didn't get your invite, it's not coming. So it's actually quite torturous for a lot of clients because you don't know when you're going to get it. You don't know, and the anxiety tends to build towards the end. I will say that I have had multiple clients who have received their interview invites in the last or the last day of the releasing. So I always try to tell clients, don't stress. It'll come when it comes. Try not to think about it. And then once you get the invite, you have 10 days to set up the interview with your with the person that they've matched you with. So Stanford will match you with an alumni interviewer.
Okay. It's very good to know about the time
Mm.
by when you would receive an invitation in any given day. That's actually really helpful. Um,
Yeah, like I said,
so
it's a very stressful process compared to some of the other schools.
yeah. So if we have people listening and waiting for interviews, if they haven't received an interview yet, there's still plenty of time.
Yes, just relax and hope for the best, and you will know by November 12th, one way or the other.
So in the interview, what type of content and how long is the interview? Can you give us a little bit of information about the interview itself?
Sure. So it's done by an alumni interviewer. Most of them will be interviewing a few, if not many, applicants. I think they
Okay.
have a base of about 500 people that they can call upon. In the past, that's been done so that they try to match people kind of in a geographic sense to be close to where you are, so you would actually meet in person. Of course, with COVID, that's all changed.
Mhm.
So we can talk a little bit about that in a bit. But In general, they are, alumni interviewers. They're going to have access to only to your resume, not to the rest of your application.
Okay.
And they will be focusing on kind of your fit for the school. So your ability to express yourself. Do they kind of have some kind of connection with you, some rapport? Can they see how you might behave in a group setting, so that, would I want to sit next to this person in class? Would I want to be on a project with this person? And then they'll be asking you behavioral questions. So Stanford's a very firm believer that your future potential is based on you can see something from your past that will help you determine your future success. So they do ask a lot of behavioral questions. The interviewers will have a full range of those questions kind of that they can call upon. They will have probably reviewed your resume and will base some of them on that, but it will be, lots of behavioral questions of, tell me a time when, and then the rest of the questions. So it's really good to prepare for that interview with stories from your past, like thinking about your past of when you've shown leadership, when you've confronted an issue that was difficult, when you've kind of gone above and beyond what was called for you. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. There's a lot of questions out there that you can find, so you can have a pretty good idea. But they will be looking for specific leadership qualities. And a lot of times people are, confused as to what those might be. It's very similar to what they're asking from your recommenders. So they have a leadership grid that you can usually find online or in one of our prep guides, but talks about the different leadership qualities that Stanford is looking for. And so a good way to prepare for that is to go through that grid, think to yourself, okay, first of all, rate yourself on that grid. Where do you fall on the 5 different levels? And then think of examples that support that rating, some specific examples with some detail, so that when when they come to you and say, tell me about a time when you faced an ethical dilemma, you will have a story in your back pocket to be able to talk about.
And the idea is not to memorize these stories, but to be able to articulate them without searching for your words or spending too much time on the context.
Yeah, I like to tell people to prepare. So like think about all those stories, go through them, and then kind of let it go and forget. And you will remember it when you need to, but it is important in the interview itself to not seem over prepared, in the sense that you're memorized something and you're trying to kind of get a specific words across, but to really listen to the question and to answer it, adapt your answer to the question. So I think it's good to kind of do that preparation so that you feel calm and you know that you have those stories, and then in the interview itself try to just relax and approach it as a normal conversation. I will say that that one thing that is nice to know about this, I always tell my clients to approach it as the alumni interviewer is really your advocate. They're looking for a reason to recommend you. They're not like on the admissions committee really comparing you to a lot of other candidates and making those hard decisions. So your job is really just to give them the ammunition that they need to be able to write a great write-up about you, and to really help them to be your advocate. So it's usually, those conversations are very conversational, very friendly. Of course, when you're dealing with alumni, they vary quite a bit. So there are different styles and different approaches, and people, some are more formal, some are less formal. I would say in general, they're very genuine and really trying to get to know you and wanting to know, how you would contribute to the class, and wanting to find a way to help you get in.
Now, you mentioned a write-up that they have to do afterwards. Can you just give us a little insight on the back end?
Sure. So they will have to do a write-up about you, obviously, that they've met with you. They will be asked to rate you again on a similar kind of scale that the recommenders are. A lot of times they won't necessarily have all the information to rate you on all these different qualities, but they will be asked to kind of to comment on how you have demonstrated the leadership qualities that they're looking for, if you have. And so they will be asked to do that. And so that's again why those examples that you give, the stories that you tell, are really important, in that sense that they will give the recommender the kind of the ammunition that they need to write a great recommendation for you.
Now, Heidi, with the pandemic, how has that impacted the interviews and the choice of alum, or does that actually impact the choice of alum interviewers?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it has impacted in that all this year, all interviews will be virtual.
Hmm.
So that has definitely impacted that. And before they were all in person. It's not, it's a little bit too early to know exactly. I can anticipate, I would guess that, I mean, they've always made an effort in the past to do two things: match you with someone in your geographic area, obviously, because you had to meet with them. And
Hmm.
secondly, to the extent possible, to match you with someone who might have a similar background. So
Hmm.
someone who could really relate to your background. So if you're in finance, they would try to match you with someone in finance. If you're in consulting, same thing. So I think that that will probably be the same. And in fact, I'll probably be able to get a little bit even closer matches,
Hmm.
given that you don't have to actually meet in person. So I think you could really expect that you'll be matched with someone who understands your background to a degree and will be familiar with the same types of cases or deals that you've been working on, so that you'll have some kind of level of commonality there.
Great. Um, and Heidi, how does GSB look at the interview as part of the overall application material that the candidate submits?
It is an important part of the application process, and obviously, if you get to interview stage, it really shows that you have your chances go up to maybe 50 or 30 to
Hmm.
50% admit rate. So it does increase your odds considerably. So it is important. Um, it is one part of the application. It's not going to be a make or break. I think in general they will take the input from the interviewer and take that into account on the entire application again, as one more data point. It's not going to be kind of the final be all end all. They will look at it in the context of the rest of the application. A lot of it, I think, is really just to verify that you are who you say you are, that you can communicate effectively, that in some cases, if you're from outside the US, that you can speak English,
Hmm.
and express your ideas in a way that's able to, and you understand. So they're just, it's a little bit of a reality check to make sure that you are who you say you are to a degree.
And looking at your EQ skills as well, as you
Yes,
said, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Any final advice that you have for our listeners?
Well, yes, I would say I didn't mention before that the interview is usually between 45 to 60 minutes. Generally, it can go over. In fact, in the past, we've had many reports of people who've, 90 minutes. It was very variable again in the past, in the sense that it could be in someone's office or it could be at a coffee shop. So that could definitely affect it. I think probably this year, I would imagine it'll be a little bit more standard, just because it's going to be on say Zoom or something, and you'll have kind of that hour or whatever blocked out. There is a 15-minute generally section at the end where you get to ask questions. And so I think it's important to come to the interview with those questions, and especially kind of, not, legitimate questions that you really, because that's part of the interview as well, is that you get to ask an alum, what it was like, how they, especially if they have a similar background to yours, how they took advantage of the different program aspects of the classes that they might have liked. So I would approach it in that way. That's another way to build rapport also with your interviewers, to kind of, genuinely look for information, as opposed to try to kind of ask kind of stilted questions that don't really mean anything. So I would treat that that last part as an opportunity for you to learn more about the school and to make a connection there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Heidi. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Malvina.
And
Anytime.
we'll talk again another time, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.